Now, the Supreme Court a short while ago declined a request by 4 civil society organizations, including policy think tank Imani Africa, to allow them join the cases against the voters register compilation. The 7-member panel held that the application is not supported by law. The groups had argued that they had information which could assist the court in its determination of the matter, but the court disagreed. My colleague Joseph Akable was in court. He joins us with some more details in a bit. Well, do I have Joseph joining us? Okay, Joseph will join us in a bit for more on this particular story. Stay with us.
It seemed quite clear, and you would have better served your interest if you had just joined any of the parties instead of coming in as a friend of the court.
Well, the suggestion that we should have joined the case is well taken, but the point also is that what does that mean for an amicus? You know, I mean, in other jurisdictions, people file amicus cases anyway, and they take positions. We do have an interest in the matter. I mean, I suspect that is why we actually decided to file the brief. So to suggest that the brief was not neutral, I don't understand the language. I think they probably didn't even read anything, but anyway, they made their decisions, and we can live with that.
Is this the end of the road for you in terms of your activism related to this particular issue?
Well, this is a country of law and order. I would think that the courts have decided what they have to decide. It doesn't stop us from activism. We'll keep on speaking about the matters because we think that these are critical matters of public policy. I think the courts have benefited soundly from sound public policy, but they chose differently. And so, well, here we are. Well, on the onset of this application, we did say that we were at the benevolence, more or less, of the laws. And so what they decide to do, we'll live with it. It's just that we are disappointed, though, that they didn't even consider the brief itself. We think they would have benefited greatly from it. But look, the laws have spoken, and we can't quarrel with that. We just have to live with it. But I hope that the decisions they arrive at eventually would be the decision that everybody can live with in this country. Otherwise, I'm just disappointed. I think my colleagues here are equally disappointed. This was an introduction to how cases are determined in court. I was quite awed. I mean, at some point I was laughing all through. But I guess lawyers know their trade, and the judges also know their trade.
And that's President of Imani Africa, Franklin Cudjoe, reacting to the Supreme Court's decision. But let's get Joseph Akable to give us some more details. Joseph, we know about Imani Africa. Obviously, Franklin Cudjoe has reacted. Tell us about the other 3 CSOs.
And so the other CSOs include the Conservative Policy Research Center, the Institute for Liberty and Policy Innovation, and the Alliance for Social Equity and Public Accountability, as we refer to them. So they, together with Imani Africa, took this matter to the Supreme Court, filing the amicus brief and asking that they be allowed the opportunity to come into the case as friends of the court to assist it with information that they believe could help the court arrive at a conclusion, insisting that they were persons who were citizens who obviously be affected by the decision of the court.
We understand the court had some concerns, including describing them as not being neutral. We had Franklin react to that. Explain that to us.
That comment came from Justice Paul Bafoboni, a member of the panel. It was after some questions had been asked of the lawyer as to whether he had read the 2 cases that had been filed earlier. He responded that he had not read the writ, but had read some affidavits relating to the 2 cases. And so the Chief Justice had made a point that, I mean, if you've not read the 2 cases, how do you know, how do you conclude that the information you are coming to give to us is new information that could assist us? It was at that point that Justice Bafoboni came in to say that, I mean, they know Imani quite well, they know what the CSOs have been up to and their commentary on the issue, and he thinks that they are not neutral in this particular matter, and they have a position and they support a certain party, as in party in the sense of a side in the case that is before the court. And he thinks they would have served their interests better if they had simply joined them when they brought the matter to the court, rather than come acting as though they are friends of the court coming in to assist the court. And he said, "You are not neutral," he stated.
Joseph, stay with me for a while. Let me get Franklin Cudjoe, who's just also joined us via Zoom, on. Mr. Franklin Cudjoe, thank you very much for your time. We heard your reaction a bit later on as you spoke to pressmen after the court's decision. So what's the way forward? How are you moving forward from here?
Well, thank you very much. I think we'll continue with our advocacy. I think it was a thoroughly disappointing ruling. References to neutrality were a bit classless, because I thought that the issues around amicus is that you have an interest in the matter. And this example is littered all over the globe. I mean, the recent case of DACA in the United States, there were as many as 125 amicus briefs that were filed by interested parties. So I don't know where that was coming from. But as I said already, even before the case began, we said we'll live with it. I mean, we know that our courts are not that bold, and so somehow it was a bit disappointing not to even allow the brief in the first place. I did not understand what neutrality meant in this case. But anyway, we'll continue the advocacy. We plan to continue on the sidelines and actually take the whole, the Deputy Attorney General's remarks about the bloatedness of the register to town with a lot of useful evidence that we did think that it would have helped the court, but of course they decided otherwise. I think they've already made up their minds anyway. Otherwise, what's the point anyway? We knew that would either be accepted or dismissed. So, like I said, it was one interesting comedy that I witnessed. I mean, I never knew that the way court treats lawyers sometimes can be very profound, but also quite interesting. So way forward is to continue our advocacy. This matter isn't rested. We are going to delve deeper into it. We'll publish our briefs, by the way, so that people will read it and know that there was some substantial amount of new evidence that we have proposed. So that's what we'll do.
Great, but does it mean advocacy is all you have left now? What would that achieve?
Well, I mean, to the extent that the brief was not even accepted in the first place, the rational line of the course of action is to publicize the brief as much as we can, so that people would appreciate that there was some newness to the issues we've been advocating. And indeed, as one of the judges obviously commented, that they knew that they've been following advocacy. So we hope that they continue listening. I know it won't change their minds, but to the extent that they'll be listening, that's useful. And we think we can take it further beyond the courts. I suspect that many discerning minds as well would also read the brief and make up their minds. That's all we can do. It's a law and order society. So you can shout and cry, but at the end of the day, judicial power is judicial power. They're spoken, and we can live with it. I only hope that tomorrow's decision can be lived with by everybody.
Mr. Cudjoe, before I let you go, we know that you also petitioned the Otumfuose to the second. Have you received any reactions, any feedback from him?
Well, we went to make a full presentation to the Santiman Council on the vexed issues as well, and they did say that they were going to call the EC and then speak to the EC. So that's where we left it at. I haven't heard anything yet. But we were not obviously oblivious of the fact that we made an impression on them. It was a 2-hour conversation with Q&A, which was quite refined and quite orderly. Yeah, it wasn't the one we've experienced today, where we were dismissed almost without any proper interrogation of the case. And it was rather sobering, really.
You sound disappointed, Mr. Cudjoe, but we have to leave it here and see how this...
That's fine. I'm grateful. Thank you.
All right. Franklin Cudjoe there. He's president of Imani Africa.